Yeah. Y'all ready for it? One more time, we are back. This is Tuesday, 8 a.m., and we are ready to give y'all a gym right here on the Remix Morning Show. Black Power Media in the building. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. And let me introduce you to your host, no other than Kamal Banklin, a.k.a. Franklin. All right, let's unmute you real quick. There we go.
My bad. I was complaining already. My bad.
Okay, go ahead. Continue.
No, I feel like there should have been a bigger, build up.
Oh, to bring you in since it's just
you.
Oh, okay.
But that's okay. I mean, I'll let you slide on that. You gonna try it again?
No, I wasn't. But I
got excited for a second. I got excited. Yeah. So good morning, beautiful people. It's Kamal here. The blah blah blah. Sorry, the Remix Morning Show. I don't usually have to do this part. Somebody usually here to do all this. Thank y'all for coming in. Don't worry, some other hosts are going to be joining us soon. Don't you worry. You won't get my sarcastic nature for the whole 2 hours by myself. Although I know you would love it if it was to happen that way, but we're gonna be chill and it's not gonna happen that way. So we're just waiting for some of our other hosts to come in. I think Miss Luke is going to be joining us soon. But how's everybody doing? Great start to our Tuesday morning week. Yes. Doctor, how was your weekend? That mix. Oh, what for? I'm introducing you, but I'm gonna make you shut up again.
Okay.
So for Patreon subscribers, my man just dropped an old school, new school, no school mix, school rules mix, and it's hot. It was hot. I listened to it like 3 times.
What?
3 times. It was all in the background music. You know what I'm saying?
It took you to a certain place. You was like, where is he going? And then it came in and you was like, yeah.
The high point, you threw some Biggie in there. You got some Woo.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I was like, yo, this is the shit. I love it.
Appreciate it. So yeah, go check that out. Go to patreon.com and go check out that new mix. Other than that, man, I had a good Sundays. I had a brother that goes by the name of Jay White come by, and he came and we chopped it up about what he's doing. He's an author, poet, owns wine.
He owns wine.
Yeah, he has wine and everything.
You got a vineyard?
He got that. He got I don't know if he got a vineyard, but he got wine. He got different types of bottles of wine. Talking about wine bottles that started like $500 and
oh damn.
Yeah.
Did he give you a little taste? You got a little taste on the air?
Nah, but actually they brought me some stuff back from Africa, so it was all good. Yeah, man. He was even on Shark Tank.
Did he I assume he didn't win.
He won.
He did?
Yeah.
Well, that's the good thing about Shark. I'm glad he did win. Shark Tank, for all those wannabe entrepreneurs, even if you get on, I mean, I don't know if it's as big as it was, but like before, like people would get on there, even if they lost, they got investors and their orders went up and all that kind of good stuff, whatever.
Yeah, he also does the petty cab. Actually, when you get on like the little cab in the back and you sit with you and your date while the person rides the bike. He owns a bunch of those from one in here in Atlanta and in Cali.
Oh, damn. Yeah, so he's a successful entrepreneur.
A successful entrepreneur. Yes.
You don't find those too much. He was black. Was he black?
Oh, yeah.
I just was checking.
Nah, he's black. He actually me and him host the Black Man Lab also. So
okay.
Yeah, so
how was that going, man? I love the black. You don't talk enough about that. I love the Black Lab.
Black Man Lab. We got to get you through there when we talk about organizing. But it was good. We talked about black businesses, how to get them started and stuff like that. So
I know y'all committed to that black business thing.
I mean, the thing is, we got to feed our kids. We got to feed. People got to eat. So how are they gonna get it unless they go work for somebody or they can create some type of business? Either or. Like me, I was like, I don't like working for people. So therefore, I created a business of DJing.
Multiple businesses. You've created multiple, yeah.
Exactly. You find a passion and you make it a business.
I know. I mean, selling drugs is a passion. And if you can find other ways to, other things to do it through, I think it's fantastic.
Just got that white on deck.
You know what I'm saying?
But tell us about speaking of what's going on. We had a riot here in downtown Atlanta.
Son. You didn't have no riot.
Broken windows.
One lousy cop car get burnt. They want to call it a riot. So yeah, folks came out here. I mean, in all seriousness, this is a lot of the allies of Tortuguia, the young person who was killed by the Georgia State Troopers. And some people did, like, it said the flyer was hilarious for some people because the vigil, the flyer vigil was all black. And I guess if you're not in the know, people don't understand that means it's really an anarchist led, let's say it like that, vigil, which means it's not your standard, vigil. This type of vigil means that some shit might get smashed, to be honest. So, but they targeted the Atlanta Police Foundation, or somebody targeted, I should say, the Atlanta Police Foundation, Wells Fargo, might even been Bank of America, but it was basically places that were supporting or put money in or on the board of the Atlanta Police Foundation in Cop City. Apparently, you know what I mean? That's what happened. There were several arrests that took place. I think all about 7 or 8 arrests. All of those folks have been charged with domestic terrorism also. And so that's something, that we're going to have to battle. There's now about 19 people here in Atlanta who've been charged with domestic terrorism. And to be clear, the folks that they even arrested at the rally were not anyone. They was not someone that they caught or got who was actually quote unquote destroying property or anything. Basically, they just went into the crowd and somebody was holding some signs. They grabbed them up and they got charged. People who were running backwards, they got charged. So we now got about 19 people who've been charged with domestic terrorism. And again, just more support is needed. This comes out of the killing of, again, the young organizer in the force last week. And so there's still reverberations being felt. Your boy, Raphael Warnock, basically took a cowardly approach. He tried to misquote Dr. King about peaceful resolution and working with the police and the community. He said nothing. He said nothing so far at all about the attempt to stop Cop City, what Cop City means for the larger community out here, for the larger Black community, for organizers. He's not said a word about that. The first time he's uttered anything basically was to condemn the folks who are responding to police violence. So just make sure, and this is the dude who's inherited basically Dr. King's church and rode that wave to become the senator of Georgia. So yeah, just let folks know that.
So how did he remix Dr. King's quote?
Basically, he used a quote about nonviolence to apply it to the demonstrators, as opposed to Dr. King, who spoke eloquently, obviously, about he will never again condemn the violence, or I'm going to say so-called violence, of the oppressed before he condemns the oppressor, particularly the United States, which is the most violent country in the world. And that's a paraphrase, but instead of saying something about calling for an independent investigator, which Cori Bush did, who's a congresswoman, I think from Ferguson from the Ferguson area. Instead of calling for an investigation, even doing some two-sided thing, some two-step, you know what I mean, that could have been acceptable, he just went all in ham for the police, it felt like. So, him, the mayor here, all the Black elected officials, as somebody pointed out, the one thing that they all agree on, whether a Black elected official, Democrat, or a Republican, is that they all support the police.
It looks like, with the whole gentrification process of bringing in, all the white people coming back into the city, we know police are supposed to be protecting property. So it's going to be a whole lot of property in the city in a minute. So it seems like, all right, we're going to have all the Black people on the outskirts city's gonna be white, and yeah, y'all can't come in just freak
So it's a
making no
sundown
more.
city. Yeah, sundown city, like 2023
Wow.
style. They said don't got to put no big signs up, but basically, like, you can come into work. You could be a cop. You could be a restaurant worker. You could be a teacher, an administrator for the government. But when 6 or 7 o'clock hit, you better get your ass out of town because you can't afford these prices, right? It's built for you not to be able to afford these prices. Like you said, there's a big Microsoft center that's going to open up soon here. Other corporation headquarters are coming here. They're trying to build themselves as a place for tech companies to come. So, again, even during this time period where housing sales have declined, the prices of housing and rents have not declined. So I'm talking particularly in Atlanta, but I think that's true for around the country. So those things have not declined at all. And instead, they continue to rise, and people are continually forced out of a place like Atlanta, City Central. And like you said, it's the French model, right? It's the European model. The central cities are meant for the upper class, for the people who work for the upper class in terms of upper management. They're their playground. They'll take everything. They'll build everything. They want the workers to come in, but they want you to get out. And the police are here to make sure you get out. And so there's only a few for all those folks who talk about the Black Mecca. Just remember, Atlanta used to be over 60% Black. Now it's less than 50% Black. And soon those Black mayors and Black city, I don't even think the city council is majority Black anymore. So,
hey, and then you got to think about 2026. What is the World Cup supposed to be here? Definitely got to get y'all up out of the city.
That's what that, Garen. Yeah, all the homeless people. It's going to be a repeat of the Olympics.
Oh my goodness, it is, and it's going to be like they're looking at like a whole week of $1 billion worth of money is going to be here in the city, and it's like, yo, we got to get them out of here. We got to make sure we got all this land so we can, because that was the whole land grab thing with Morris Brown. It's like, yo, we'll give you all these $40 million as long as we could get a piece of your business, because y'all got this land over here right by the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is prime real estate, the whole Vine City and all that. So that what Morris Brown is going to start to get so much money, they'll be like, listen, whatever y'all want to do over here, as long as we can get a piece.
Yeah.
Ooh,
and that's the thing. Like, I think even before, there was a big thing around, they were rebuilding the stadium, the Atlanta Braves stadium, or this is a few years ago, and they started going to the churches, because the churches own land in southern Atlanta or Southwest Atlanta. And they, the same thing, that, they made this big deal about giving the churches money. And obviously these institutions usually take the money, even if they have no plan themselves for what they're going to do in terms of supporting Black people in Atlanta or Black working class people. Because, obviously it's just really not the point, right? Yeah. For them, the point is they got the money, they can build either bigger classrooms. They're not going to spend it on professors, but they can build bigger classrooms. Never. Yeah, they're not doing all that. They can have bigger buildings with people's names on them. They can do an uptick on the dormitory spaces that they purchase, which used to be working class neighborhoods. The Black colleges, they just replicate. They replicate what the white universities do, right? Which are gentrifying forces. They come in, they spread out, they buy those buildings, property values increase, and everybody who used to be around here are gone. I mean, NYU did this in New York. Columbia has done this to an extent, to a large extent in New York. But this is what the colleges are just part of the machine for gentrification.
Man, whole lot going on. So with that said, let's go ahead and take our first quick break, and hopefully we get some other hosts coming around here. Not saying that you're not doing a great job.
I think I'm doing it. I haven't even asked for money yet, B. Come on now.
That's right.
I haven't told anybody to dip into their pocket on the 24th of January, only 6 days away from payday. They can afford to give like a $5, $10, $15 to. I will say the Patreons are going up, son. The Patreons are going up. We over 250 Patreons. You know what I'm saying?
That's why we go. Hey, we're gonna flood Patreon. We're gonna give y'all much more than you could bargain for. With that said, we're gonna go ahead and take our quick break right here on the Remix Morning Show. All right, let's get to the weather. There we go. All right, here we go. Welcome out, everybody. Welcome out. Straighten this out real quick. There we go. Welcome out to Black Power Media. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. And yeah, hit that like button, subscribe button if you haven't already, and go to patreon.com, drop some change in the bucket. Also share, because sharing's caring. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and get to our weather report. Let's start off in the ATL. Man, this weather has been up and down and up. I don't know what to do. I just dress in layers and go out because who knows if it's going to be hot, cold, or whatever. ATL, high today, 53 degrees. Next, let's take it over to DC and the whole DMV area. They got a high today of 50 degrees, which is cool. Next, let's take it to the Midwest, to Detroit. Detroit, 36 degrees high. Cold brick as usual, coming off of that lake over there. All right, next, let's take it down to New Orleans. New Orleans, baby. They got a high today of 65 degrees. 65 degrees. Go down there and get your gamble on, I guess, if you want to. Next, let's take it over to Los Angeles, LA. They got a high today of 66 degrees. And after that, we're going to take it down to Honolulu, Hawaii. If you're going to go take a little vacation, they got a high today of 80 degrees. And next, let's end it off in Panama City, Florida, where I used to stay. They got a high today of 61 degrees, which isn't hot. But I'll tell you what is hot. It was got me a little hot under the collar. This whole dude right here, what is his name? Ron, straight out of Florida. Yeah, Ron Santis. He rejected this whole teaching Black history in schools. He was so against this that he signed in 2022 Stop Woke Act, which this is actually something he signed, a Stop Woke Act, which limits how race may be taught in classrooms. So just the fact that he's doing this and teaching, like, listen, we got to erase the whole history of Black people. We don't want to hear that, and we don't want to bring up no bad feelings and stuff like this. It's all about emotions and feelings nowadays. The people getting hurt. Well, sometimes you got to break an egg to make an omelet. That's right. That's what has to happen. So stop being all scared and get these kids prepared and teach them the history so they know not to. Well, they're doing exactly what America is supposed to be doing. What am I talking about? Anyway, let's go ahead and take you back to the Remix Morning Show with our host, Kamau Franklin.
Welcome back. Remix Morning Show. Yeah, I thought we was going to have some other hosts. Y'all going to make me do this whole thing by myself? It's going to get grimy, B. You know how I hate to talk to a camera. It's going to be grimy.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Well, hey, how about I got to do double
That's
shift
true.
over
That's
here.
true. That's true. Then I got to put up with you for a whole show too. So, you know.
Yeah. Is it me? I just want to ask the people out there, is Kamal's camera lagging or is it just my
I think it's you.
It might be.
I look as beautiful as always, son. I'm on top. I'm tip top.
But yo, I actually just got asked to teach a first, second, and third grade African studies.
Oh,
yeah, because it was like my friend was like, you know,
at a school.
Yeah, at a school. My friend was like, you know, his kids, they're tired of just learning about Martin Luther King. So and it was like him and some parents got together and it was like they want them to learn something. So for this month coming up, Black History Month, I'm going to be teaching some Black history.
And what does that mean? Like, who you going to teach about? What
just different. I want to make it fun. I want to talk about, you know, maybe Benjamin Banneker. You know, we start there. We talk and then show them the you know how the clock went to the cell phone. You got to make it relatable, and then talk about the who invented the Nerf guns and stuff like that. Just
the Nerf guns. Okay.
Yeah, Black person.
I got a little nerve. I thought you was gonna do like a Bumpy Johnson thing or something, like, you know. Like
nah. I want to make it relevant. You know, especially when you're dealing with younger kids, you want to have something you can put in their hand, pass around the classroom, show them different inventors, talk about different who, this, that, and the third, so they can have examples. That's the whole thing for me in history, is so you'll be able to have an example.
Talk about the movement, son. The movement. You're not gonna talk about the movement?
Yeah, that too. You
Oh,
gotta
okay.
have.
I hear you
Yeah.
say it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, come on, man. We got to talk about that because we got to talk about people that actually stood up against
White supremacy,
all that,
racism. Yeah.
all
You know what I'm
that.
saying? Oh,
So,
okay. I just want to make sure.
but the thing is, all they know right now is Martin and Malcolm,
Well,
and
they need to
it's
know. They need to know the right kind of Martin and Malcolm. That's the
and it,
problem too. So even
yeah,
if they get an overdose of particularly Martin, it's the question becomes whether or not they're getting the real Martin or they're getting that 1963 "I Have a Dream" Martin, which I
yeah.
suspect they are getting. Yeah.
And you know who else they need to know about?
Who they need to know about?
Jackie Luke.
Oh, straight from Wakanda and shit. I love this
Woo!
outfit. Look at this.
I love it.
Looking gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank
I
you
got my
so
ticket. I
much.
see you in about an hour, right? 2 hours.
Uh-huh.
Oh, sorry. Shh, I didn't mean to mention that online. My bad.
Oh, word. What's
Oh,
going on? You
nothing.
coming on the show?
Nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. Nothing. What?
Mhm.
I'm so sorry for being late, y'all. Just had, one of those really bad treatments last night. So when that happens, I feel really crummy the next day and we're kind of slow. So sorry about that. But here I
That's
am.
okay.
Please, by all means,
Talking
handle
about
yourself.
Dr. King and the booty statue.
No, I was just informing Kamal that I'm gonna start teaching Black history classes at for first, second, and third graders. So
Wow.
yep.
At a school.
That is
At a school,
nice.
he said.
At a whole school.
Yeah,
At an
at a whole
That's what
school.
he
accredited
said.
school.
That's what he said.
I just got to remember the names and dates
I was
and get
about
them
to
right.
say, you need to spell, get some flashcard, get some little index cards,
Exactly.
spell out those names phonetically.
Phonetically, right?
You do that.
Break down the syllables.
Yes.
You know. All right, I got
Tell
it. I'm
them
working on it.
babies mispronouncing folks for the rest of their lives.
We want them to be saying Chloretta King. You know what I mean?
We don't.
Oh, can't take me nowhere. All right. With that said, that's your weather for the day. I'll let y'all go ahead and get into the news and all that. All right. Peace.
Sweet.
Peace.
Peace.
Jackie, you doing? I mean, I know you said you had a rough treatment, but are you doing a little better right now?
Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing better. There's not, well, once that kind of stuff happens, there's really not a whole lot you can do about it other than to just kind of struggle through it. And sometimes I have to end treatment early if it's really bad. And last night it wasn't terrible, but it's still really uncomfortable. I get the chills and the shakes and can't quite figure out what's causing that. I'm not quite sure. So I gotta have a little powwow with my sorry, shouldn't have said that. I have to have a little confab with my dialysis nurses and the nephrologist to see what's going on there because
Okay.
because maybe my prescription needs to be changed. Maybe I need to do treatment for less period of time. Maybe the flow of blood needs to be lower. I don't know. So
Should I pack a bag and come up there?
not yet. I'm gonna tell you like I told my dad, no. Do not come up here. I'm all right.
When your dad comes, I'm coming because I feel like I need to meet your dad so I can let him know that I'm a nice guy. You know what I'm saying? That I'm a good dude. I'm not that joker.
My dad doesn't think anybody that
It's
I
a nice,
know.
doesn't matter. Yeah.
Look, my dad spent all of his, goodwill toward men on Abdus, and after that, it was like,
I was
well,
going to say, did Abdus have a good relationship with your dad? Your dad liked Abdus?
oh, my dad loved that man. He
Oh.
loved him. He was just like, that's my son, and I would call him, how's my son doing? But I'm calling him. You're not gonna ask how I'm doing? Well, I'm talking to you.
Oh, he's like, I already know you. Where's my man at?
Oh,
That's
yeah,
beautiful.
he loved Abdus, and just heartbroken when he passed. Just
Oh.
right along with Abdus's dad and me. So, yeah, But
I hear you.
I don't think anybody else is ever going to get that level of love from my father.
Well, it can't hurt to try.
Sorry.
Can't hurt to try, though. It can't hurt to try. We're all here for the try. You know what I'm saying? We may not make the basket, but when the clock's down, someone's got to take that shot. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm just
Excuse me?
telling you,
Excuse me?
it's the bar is
The bar's really high.
the bar is
I assume
really
it. I
high.
assume it is. I assume
I
it is.
feel bad for dudes.
I assume it is. I
I
assume
don't
it
know what
is.
to tell y'all because
So look, on that note, let's slap a map and get some
yeah,
news
let's
done.
do
You know what I'm
that.
saying? Slap a map. Good morning, Remix Morning Show. Stir your teeth. Don't you worry about that part. I got you. I got you.
Uh-huh.
Good morning, Remixers. Remix Morning Show on the air. Your favorite hosts, Kamal and Jackie. Jackie and Kamal. There is no other. You know what I'm saying? We here to break down the news for you. I haven't seen one super chat though. Let me just throw that in there right now. I've seen like not one chat so far. One super chat. A little
And here
cash.
comes Kamak Frank.
Put a little cash on it. Put a little cash on it. You know what I'm saying? Just a little bit. This will make me feel good. Make me feel good. My voice is extra deep today. You know what I'm saying? I've been doing too much talking, too much bad local media and all that kind of stuff. We can get into that later on when we do a little update on Cop City. But, you know, put a little cash on it. Y'all know how y'all supposed to do. You know, it's Tuesday. So, breaking news. Let's get into the news. You got a story, Jackie, or should I start us off?
Yes, I do have a story. And this is out of Burkina Faso.
Oh, we're going
I love
international.
this. The land of upright men, or the land of upright people, rather. Burkina Faso confirms it has ended the French military accord. The military government in Burkina Faso that took over from the former military government in September of last year invited France out of its country. France was in Burkina Faso ostensibly to fight Islamic terrorism, Boko Haram and such. And as we've talked about many times on this show, and I know we've talked about it on By Any Means Necessary, folks, for folks who've been paying attention, this whole Islamic jihadist terrorism that's going on the continent of Africa was certainly created and caused by the presence of AFRICOM, the expansion of AFRICOM. It was made worse by the expansion of AFRICOM, the destabilization of African nations with U.S. military force and other Western military forces. France is just as guilty. So they're sitting there talking about, oh, we're here to fight Islamic jihadist terrorism, and they're actually making the situation worse. So, excuse me, I thought I had a bunch of stuff highlighted here. But anyway, the president, the interim president, Ibrahim Traore, said that we're terminating the agreement which allows French forces to be in Burkina Faso. This is not the end of diplomatic relations with between Burkina Faso and France. This termination is normal and is foreseen in the terms of the agreement. The ruling military and the whole country wanted to be prime actors in the recapture of our territory from the terrorist groups. And this is why this was done, because France wasn't doing anything to stop or reduce jihadist Islamic terrorism in Burkina Faso or anywhere else on the continent. So Traore said, get out. we can't possibly do worse than y'all doing, and y'all are doing crap. So yeah. So that is going on in Burkina Faso. But this is the very interesting part of this. Burkina Faso is not going it alone. They are turning instead to Russia. excuse me. Of course, the French haven't said anything about a tightening of relations with Russia between Burkina Faso, because they feelings hurt. Um, and let's not forget that Mali kicked the French out last year for the same reason. Um, and the people rose up against the French soldiers too. There was a lot of people power in the streets demanding that the French leave, both in Mali and both in Burkina Faso. So this is a situation that I am gonna keep an eye on, and I'm actually hoping to get someone to come on with me on Friday to really dig into these military coups in Burkina Faso, who Traore is, because he has said that he's a Pan Africanist and some other things that sound good, but I don't like to take folks at their word because I don't know as much about the situation as I know some other experts on the region do. So I'm 6 o'clock Friday in Lukman Nation. I'm hoping to have someone to come on and talk about these developments as they continue to unfold. I'm very interested to see what happens with Russia and both Mali and Burkina Faso.
It was funny to see the French president, as part of the article, said they're awaiting clarification from from the government. It's like the clarification is to pack your stuff and get out. What other clarification do you need? I mean, obviously, I think the French, are going to try to maneuver and keep personnel there. They said that they weren't obviously breaking off diplomatic relationships, but this, like you said, we don't know where this government is politically, what the long-term ramifications are. Obviously, military rule is hardly ever a good thing for the larger citizenship, but we can't discount the fact that getting the French out, who are constantly going to be a destabilizing force in Africa, in these two countries and other places, has to be seen as something good. So if that's the starting point to get the French out, then that's fantastic. And they're right, like there's other nations to turn to besides the West, who on top, we know that their role is not to stop Al Qaeda or any other group from taking over the country. Their role is to make sure that they still have influence over the resources, the government, and the land. And they wouldn't care necessarily if a government force took over that was oppressing its people, as long as it remained. They remained in that country to take over or to be in charge of resources and be able to take resources out. So, so from what we literally know, good news to have the French being taken out. And, this looks like a trend, at least in some ways, where soft power is being used by Caribbean and African nations to at least push out a little bit or get them further away, both French and British colonizers of both the past and present. So, yeah, this is all good news right now.
I agree. And also, Traore said that and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing his name, but he also said that he wants to have more closer relations with neighboring countries, which the French were obviously not allowing them to do. So, well, check out what's going on in Burkina Faso.
It's one of the saddest stats about individual African nations within Africa is that they don't do a lot of trading with each other. Most of the trading is done with outside countries, whether or not that's China, whether or not that's European countries. We know it's not America, but most of the trading that happens. And again, we're not saying that this trading is even fair trading, but most of the resource exchanges are happening with Africa and resources being taken outside the country as opposed to peer-to-peer trading. So, and I think, particularly in East Africa, Ethiopia, Eritrea, and several other nations are doing a lot now to make a change in that, which again is upsetting U.S. and Western forces Western capitalist interests, because they don't want them doing more trading with each other and or more trading with other nations outside of the Western orbit. It's a little bit too little too late, as we saw the summit that was here a few months ago, because the U.S., after the vote on Ukraine, where most of the African nations voted not to say we want to punish Russia, the United States kind of was like, oh, wait a minute, we ignored diplomatic relations with Africa as long as we were getting certain resources. Right. But while that was happening, nation states like China were doing trading, were developing resources, again, not necessarily in the best way or the best terms, but as an alternative to the West. It's something that we can see is better than what was happening before. So we should actually, as you say, continue to be on the lookout and have some updates on that story about what's happening.
Definitely. What you got?
So I got, I want to talk a little bit about what seems to be a new Rodney King type of situation. And so as folks know, I think, we've talked a little bit about it previously, the beating in Memphis of Tyre Nichols, who was pulled over in a pedestrian stop and was beaten to death literally by 5 police officers. The family has now been able to view the video of what took place, and the police and the city have still not released the video, even though they've already fired the 5 officers. And obviously, from everything that we know, is that they are delaying the releasing of this video, and some news reports have said they're delaying it for another week or two, because what they want is they're hoping to have things die down, hoping people move on to other stories, maybe pick up on some celebrity stories, and they're going to try to release this video in the dead of night, and try to blunt its impact. Because apparently, from after the family watched it, in the headline here, even though we may not be a fan of Crump, appalling, heinous attorney compares Tyre Nichols video to Rodney King beating. And so the expectation is that this is going to be really bad in terms of what was caught on camera of the beating of this motorist, which led to him basically dying. So the murder, we should say, of this black motorist that led to this black motorist, which led to him dying. Let me see if we can play this video really quick. I don't know if a commercial is going to pop up in a will. It's not worth the wait. I'll skip that.
Have to make sure that there's justice for Tyre.
The family of Tyre Nichols and their attorney, Ben Crump, who you heard from there, speak out tonight for the first time since seeing footage from the encounter with Memphis police that led to Nichols' death. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump calling the footage appalling, violent, and heinous. Good evening. I'm Joe Birch.
And I'm Joy Redmond, and we have team coverage tonight as we learn new details about the body cam footage and the ongoing investigation into Tyre's death. Let's go first to Action News 5's Stephanie Douglas, who was at today's press conference with the family. Stephanie, what can you tell us?
Good evening, guys. Well, I can tell you that we still don't know what that video footage looks like, as it has not been released to the public. But we can tell you that the family and attorneys of Tyre Nichols say that the video was so bad, they had to take a break from watching it. They also compared it to the 1991 beating of Rodney King by Los Angeles police officers. But civil rights attorney Ben Crump says the difference between the 1991 incident and the video of Nichols' arrest is that Nichols never made it home again. Crump said today Nichols was less than 100 yards away from his house when he was pulled over by officers in an unmarked car. He says that the video shows Nichols calling out for his mom 3 times. At the end of the video, civil rights attorney Antonio Ramanucci says that there was an unnecessary, intentionally cruelty and violence against Tyre.
Let me say this about Tyre, about what we saw in that video. We're here not to talk about what a great boy he was and what a good son he was to his mother. But let me tell you what he was in that video. He was defenseless the entire time. He was a human pinata for those police officers. It was an unadulterated, unabashed, nonstop beating of this young boy for 3 minutes.
So we could stop there. So again, the next step is that they are going to release this video at some point, they're saying in the next week or two. And again, the idea is that they think that by taking this time to release the video, that they're going to sort of get people to be distracted by this. And, this can very well, and they're preparing their officers, they're preparing the city. This can very well lead to another, another uprising based on what happened in 2020 and even before that after this video comes out. So they're preparing for that. We should be preparing to make that uprising happen. And obviously it should have happened already, but these cases have now, we've now entered this time period post the 2020 uprisings where again, people did not feel like justice was gotten in any of these in any real way or any real changes were made. And it has created a lull. But, from the, if I'm not mistaken, the California tasering to death of one man here in Atlanta, the murder of a forest defender, and now this video, which is soon to be released, it sounds like people are going to start hitting the streets again and in a big way.
Yeah, it absolutely needs to happen. And we need to make it our business, we organizers, to make it our business to ensure that the demands are not now to defund the police and not for more training. And no, we need community control over the police. We need these institutions out of our communities. We need to develop our own public safety measures. And of course, that's going to take time. But look, we have to begin to say the things we want to happen in our communities as we are working toward getting rid of the things that we don't. We have to begin to imagine our communities in a different way. And we can't be afraid to say that we want public safety to look like something different in our communities. We don't want public safety to look like the pigs anymore. We don't want the pigs in our community anymore. Right. We are right back there again, but Kamau, I just realized we've got a 9:00 interview today. And really quick though, before I go, who's not going to help us with this problem? Who's not going to be in the streets? These bourgeois, petty bourgeois folks at places like Howard University. Because in an HBCU first, another Black first, Howard University has been awarded a $90 million military research contract. Military research that is going to make its way back to the local police, back to our streets, right back down on our heads. So the Washington Post reports that the school will be the first HBCU to lead one of the Pentagon's 15 university-affiliated research centers. They've been awarded this 5-year, $90 million contract to lead a research center focused on technology for military systems. University and defense officials announced on Monday. The center is funded by the Department of Defense and the Air Force, and will focus on tactical autonomy technology for military systems. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin spoke at Howard making this announcement. He said it has always been dedicated to scientific discovery and innovation. He's talking about Founders Library at Howard. And he said that talking about the accomplishments in math, chemistry, and medicine. Howard, once again, you're making history, but I want to scroll down to this picture right here. I want to leave you with this image of all of these petty bourgeois Black folks standing up and applauding this warmongering blackface of U.S. imperialism. And among them are Phylicia Rashad, who, whatever respect I had for her, it wasn't a whole lot, it's gone now, because she's always shown her respectability, petty bourgeois tendencies. When it came to the kind of protests that we were just talking about, the uprising in 2022, she said some pretty, oh, that's not how we do things kind of comments about those protests and that uprising. So I just want you to remember that when we are out in the streets, y'all, protesting this system, when we are agitating to bring this system down, these folks will be happily in Founders Library and other safe, cloistered locations, cheering on the empire that's using the weapons that are now going to be developed by Howard University against us. Just remember that. Yeah.
I mean, it's so similar to what we were talking about earlier with the ear doctor, that, these Black colleges, all they want to do is to fit in and get their piece. They have no examination and or want to not examine the nature of what the society is. All they want to do is to build their institution, and they will do it with the same resources and money, as you just stated, that will be used to create weapons, which will go oppress our people overseas and which will funnel their way back into technology use here on the streets in our communities. So the fact that they would accept this, that they think somehow this is a win, that this is an accomplishment, that they themselves now get to work with the Pentagon directly work with the Pentagon in creating the very weapons that will be used to drop bombs on people. And again, it's not like these Black colleges, their history is that most of them were set up by white philanthropers who are doing this so that they could train a certain Negro elite to be part and parcel, to sort of be understudies to like how to train the rest of us on how to act or how to be, how to present ourselves, that kind of thing. That is their historic role. They've done what they can to fulfill it. There's been student uprisings and student organizing in the past, which has brought some good things. But in the end, the administration only wants to be accepted by the powers that be. They only want their piece of the pie. They only want more resources to demonstrate that they somehow should fit in or can fit in or should be a part of the larger U.S. matrix. And that's what we got to look at. So I was going to bring this up too. I know you got to run in a few minutes, but I was going to bring this up. We gotta help support and or develop and be a part of radical student organizing again.
Yes.
Like there is, I feel like, please point it out where I'm wrong, particularly in the chat, but I've not seen lately radical student organizing that has reached a certain level that is challenging their own administration. Like we can't find it here in Atlanta to the degree we need it. There are, of course, like, stray students or small groups, but the level of organizing that was happening, I'd say even when Ferguson took place here, obviously we're not going way, way back, but even when Ferguson took place here in Atlanta, students were leading a lot of the demonstrations and marches that were taking place against police brutality. And so we got to develop the radicals on campus, not so they can change the conditions on campus, but that they can be a challenge to both what's happening on campus and be a feeder back into the larger community organizations, right? It never stops on the campus, but the campus is a place to cut your teeth on the organizing that needs to be done in the larger community. And so we gotta figure out how to not only encourage students, but to get students back involved, obviously, particularly Black students at these campuses who are told by the administrators that, I remember a quote from a good friend of mine from some years back, that the students at the campus, the way they feel about it is, it's like, we know there's only a few jobs for Black folks in this environment or in this economy, but those few jobs are ours, right?
Right.
And so they're
Right.
protecting those few jobs for themselves. At least that's what they're told, and that's what happens a lot of times. So we got to get these students. These students have the time, the energy, and hopefully they can be trained. But students are so important to radical and revolutionary movements that we got to figure out what we're going to do to get these students up here.
Yeah, and I just want to say, when we bring information about the complicit and uh um duplicitous petit bourgeois class, the backstabbing black capitalists, all those folks in that room, the black imperialists. We don't bring these things up because these things are a surprise to us. We're organizers. We understand this. But the reason this platform exists is to give this information to all of you who may not realize this. There are questions in the chat. Somebody legitimately asked, how many other HBCUs have contracts with the Pentagon? People don't generally know that this is not common knowledge. And I think sometimes we in the movement, we movement folks, we organizers, we folks who call ourselves radical Pan-Africanists, whatever it is, we think we know everything, and we assume that everybody is on the same intellectual level and have all the same information that we do. And that is a huge mistake we make, because that keeps us from engaging people who otherwise we should be engaging with this information. We could be expanding people's consciousness with this information, but we're sitting around here assuming, well, everybody knows this. Why is this a surprise to you? It's not that it's a surprise. It's that we understand that there are people out here, even in this audience. There are people who know folks in this audience who don't know this information. That is why we have these conversations, not because we're surprised by it, because this is a part of organizing. It's political education. It's sharing information. This is why we do what we do.
That's so true. Well, come on up here. It's another thing that we do what we do because we want the ear doctor up here to do what he does, right?
Jackie, don't go.
How do
Don't go, Jackie.
I know you're only like 45 minutes worth.
I'm so sorry. I just looked at the schedule. I was like, oh no.
Does that mean I have to go too?
A real job.
Nah, hey, Coco, get out the chat room and come on back. Come on screen.
I think Big Teal volunteered too. I'm not sure. You know what I'm saying? Y'all better start getting up there.
Y'all keep Kamau company. You know he needs supervision. I can't just leave him.
I can't do it all.
And I ain't getting no. Where's the money, yo? Where's the money?
I didn't see much.
I mean,
I'm just saying.
Do you want to deal with this?
Usually $1. I usually get $1 by now. We didn't get $1 out, y'all. What's going on? Pockets are tight.
Well, listen, Jackie, you have a great day. We will see you tomorrow, right?
Yep, I'll be here tomorrow.
Cool. We will see you tomorrow. And we're gonna take a quick break right here on the Remix Morning Show. Oh, remix. I ain't even mean to hit that button. I ain't gonna front. How y'all doing today? Welcome out to the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. Please make sure y'all hit that like button, subscribe, and share button, and all the other buttons down there that go with them. All right, with that said, I am in the theater, getting on my, getting my Broadway on. And I was just thinking about some talented acts that came across our culture and advanced it in a way. And who did I think about when I thought about some of the best dancers? No other than I'm taking it back, y'all. The Nicholas Brothers. That's right, the Nicholas Brothers. Fayard and Harold Nicholas. Now, they started back in 1930s. It was big from 1930s and 1950s. They were known for what they call flash dancing. It was highly acrobatic technique of dancing where they did tap dancing. They did jumping in the air. You might have seen them, in Jump and Jive. This was with Cab Calloway. And there was a movie called 1943 called Stormy Weather, where they came out and did one of the greatest routines ever captured on film. They were surrounded by vaudeville acts. They actually was right there front row learning from them at the ages of 3 and 5, and seeing all these acts come through and doing their thing. So they got on and moved from Alabama and North Carolina to Philly and started doing a bunch of shows with different people. And then Hollywood came looking their way. And by that time, they started doing a bunch of different movies. I'm talking about one of their first movie was Pie Blackbird back in 1932 till their last movie, which is 2005, Hard 4. Now, you also might have seen them in the 5 Heartbeats. That's right. Howard Nicholas. He was in the 5 Heartbeats and Tap, the movie Tap with Gregory Hines and all the great tap dancers. Now, funny thing about Harold, which you might not know, he was also married to singer and actor Dorothy Dandridge. So, like I said, go check them out. They have movies, at least about maybe like 20 or 30 movies they've been in. So they have put in the work. Some of the greatest dances you've ever seen that led to tap explosion. With that said, in the Harlem Renaissance, big up to the Nicholas brothers. All right, well, let's go ahead and get back to our morning crew, which is one person. Let's get it right here on the Remix Morning Show.
What up?
Yeah.
So we got a couple of dollars up in there.
Say
Put those
word.
on the screen.
Let's check this out.
Let's
Anthony D in the place to be.
That's what I'm talking about, Anthony.
Nothing is
Anthony.
free in America.
True.
Hey,
True. It was another one. It was another one too.
okay.
It was
What
another
we have right here? Richard
Thank you.
Saint.
Thank you, Richard. I appreciate you.
Five beans up in
Is
this
this like
thing.
some requirement? I was on some other podcasts, and then at the end of the show, it was like, oh, we got super chats. And it's like once you give money, it's like you gotta, and they had questions. It's like, why you gotta read their questions? Because they gave you money.
Yeah.
Is that the etiquette?
Yeah, that's the etiquette.
I didn't know that. Because I was just like, where the money at? And like, why are you asking me questions? At the same time?
Finish reading this one for Anthony D, so we can get.
Nothing is free in America. This Pent study is the new Tuskegee. Pentagon study is the new Tuskegee. It is.
Okay.
And that's what exactly. That's what they'll pour some money into these black colleges so they can do what they want to do, which is to experiment, use us as part. I mean, we've reached the level, and it's not like it's the first time ever, but the level of it, where basically, as folks have called the comprador class, the petty bourgeois class, obviously over the last 20 years has become fully integrated as part of the American machine. Fully integrated, like we're overseas, where once there was a time where people would differentiate what black leaders were out there in terms of who was down with struggle, who was not. There's now been a cemented class, particularly over the last 20 years, like we've never seen before, who are just part and parcel of the American system and capitalist oppression. So the whole idea, so even for somebody like me who has like nationalist politics, it's the whole idea that our folks are just cemented. You know what I mean? It just talks about sort of the nature of capital and class, which can predominate issues of ethnicity and nationality and so forth, because it becomes all about the money.
Man, I mean, it is like, they put all the HBCUs in the hood, like we always know, because low property value. So they put them all in the hood, and then you got them in the hood. Then you start building in the hood, start pushing people out of the hood, and then they be like, all right, well, we got these workers right here, so let's go ahead and recruit them, give them some money, get into their school, give them some type of program that could get them to start training and learning how to be workers. So it's almost like a whole big plantation once again.
Not
where
yet.
they're like, we got a set amount of black people right here in this location. Let's go ahead and grab them up and because with the technology companies that's coming here to Atlanta, like you were saying earlier, all these different companies coming here, it's gonna be just a picking ground. Picking niggas.
Grab up some and push the others out, right? Grab up some, because they don't really want the cats who are living in the surrounding areas. Those black folks they want to push out, but they want the middle class black folks to come to the schools. But all of the black folks who live in either in shotgun houses or tenement houses, apartment buildings, those are the folks who get pushed out so that they can take that property and use it for something else. And just a little bit of independent thinking about what you could do as an administrator with some resources for and with the black community, as opposed to treating it as a service project on the one end for public consumption, but really down deep, what you're doing is trying to take communities away from people. Just if you had an iota of consciousness around that stuff, there's so much that these institutions could do, but they don't do.
Hey, Hiram is being
Hiram
said he was on here.
He's in the chat. Hiram,
Yo,
Hiram, bro,
send them
we
the
got
link.
over 275 listeners. We are owed a mix at the end. This is the opposite of a train wreck. Although
That's
if you
right.
want to give me some money, Hiram, for watching the train wreck, I'm not mad at you, son. I'm not
Hey,
mad at you.
we can send Hiram the link. He can hop on
Hiram
screen
ain't
too
jumping
and help.
on.
He
Hiram ain't
ain't
jumping
about
on.
that life.
He ain't about that life. He ain't about that life.
Wow. I
So
sent
we
Coco.
gonna get. Say it again.
I said I sent Coco
You know
the
what?
link.
I'm not. I don't need them. You don't need them.
Oh, that's
I don't need
hey.
them.
Let's do
I don't-
this.
In fact, we want to rename the Remix Morning Show to the Kamal Morning Show. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're
Wow.
gonna do.
Man, we can't even put Kamal and Air Doctor.
No,
Okay.
well, let's not push it, B. Let's not push it.
All right. So since this is gonna be the Kamal word, come on, son. You know I could just take.
No.
Nah, but
So why don't you stay with me and I do a couple more stories?
yeah, please. And I want to learn more about this whole Cop City. A lot of people that's just logging in, they don't know much about Cop City. But you could expand on the whole Cop City thing. But can we do one more thing?
Can we do what?
Can we do one more thing?
What you want to do? What you want to do?
Let's bring in Coco.
Coco, you came to join us.
Oh, she ain't even ready.
Look, she came to save the show and she can't even get a mic working.
Elder, let's
How you gonna
unmute it.
save the show and you're gonna get the mic working?
Yeah, her mic ain't even. You know what?
Ain't
You know
even
what?
plugged in.
Get it together, Coco.
You know what I'm saying? Look, you got the computers jumping up and down. This is a professional show. This is professional. You know what I'm saying? We don't go for all that.
Oh my
But as
goodness.
she's getting it together, which I'm sure she will. Let me just start off on the Cop City story.
Mm.
So one is, just to be clear. So this is Cop City Goes National is what this article is about. I'll run through the article quickly and just obviously talk about what's been happening on the ground and some more about what we want to. I wanted to mention, I'm really in a take no prisoners mode. So
Get him.
this writer, George Chidi, he is not a movement writer. So let me be clear. This dude, I'm not sure why the Intercept is trying to rehabilitate him and let him write about Cop City. Yes, he is a journalist, but he's also somebody who helped in the gentrification of downtown Atlanta by supporting the closing of the homeless shelter, the houseless shelter, which was downtown. So this guy is not necessarily a friend of movement politics. A few years ago when Rayshard Brooks was killed, he came to the hood and then started throwing shade at young 17, 16, 15-year-old dudes who for the first time in their lives were upset and angry enough to come to some demonstrations and protests, and started talking to them and asking them about violence. He did that same old violence routine, and he almost got his ass beat that day because, you try to talk down to a 16-year-old dude who's not, that's the respect is the least that folks may have left, and they're going to keep that respect. They're going to keep that. So, I had to intervene a little bit and like pull this dude away. So I'm like, I don't know what you're doing. I just don't understand why you down here kind of thing. So this dude I am not crazy about, but we will use the article as a basis to talk about Cop City. But I just want to make that clear. Coco, are you with us now? Nope, you still ain't there, girl. You still ain't there. You still ain't there.
I was on mute. I was
There
on
you
mute.
go.
I'm
There
here.
you go.
Okay.
Coco.
See?
You still
How
gotta
you
do something
doing?
with that background though. I mean, not today,
There
because you're
you
here.
go.
I'm just saying, like the shade and don't move the camera. It's okay. You look fine. But I'm just
So
complaining.
you're saying my lighting is better than yours?
No, never that.
Oh.
Never that. Remember, the lighting goes in front. even
The
though,
lighting
you know,
goes in
not
front.
behind. You want to stop, you want to have a place where the light in the behind doesn't show.
You know,
I'm just giving you
I
professional
have
tips.
I
professional
have to, you know, get my stuff together. You know, I have to get my space together. You know, I'm a working mother. I don't have time to be thinking about aesthetics. You know, I'm worried about
Right.
doing the work. That's it.
Oh,
That's it.
talk
That's
that
what I'm here
talk.
for.
Nawadi, aka Obi.
See?
$5. Good
Come
looking.
on, and I bring some money.
True, true.
Look at that. Look at that.
That's right, yo. That's right, yo. Y'all if y'all put $50, I'm sure we're gonna get Ricky a half to pop on.
Hey,
We
I
get a
just
total
sent
of 50. Ricky, where you at, Ricky?
I just sent her the link.
You did? She'll
I
have
sent
to
Ricky.
hop on. We put in 50. This is a new theme of the show. In fact, I'm gonna
Okay.
jump off when Ricky comes on because I'm already tired. Say that. But
So
we are
come
back.
out.
I'm
What was
just-
the
it's
story
my
that you're
last joke.
talking?
It's my last joke. So we back are up to 275 because I do want that remix at the end. That mix at the end. Let me just.
I got you. Take over from here, y'all.
So let's get to the story. So Cop City National, as again, as folks already know, through what we talked about last week and all that's going on, that there is not only national but international coverage of what's happening in Cop City. And so this article is basically a death is a beacon after the police killed an activist protesting a police training facility in Atlanta on Wednesday. Vigils sprung up instantly across the country from Massachusetts to Miami. And someone stating, and this has been the theme, that this will become another Standing Rock, said Casey Sharp, an archaeologist. What is that? Archaeological? What is that? Archaeologist? Archaeologist. Say that word.
Archaeological?
Yeah, that's close enough. Who has been helping bridge communications between.
Archaeological.
No,
Is
we all
that-
wrong.
is that
That's
what I
just a
said?
shame. That's all a shame. I think it's archaeological. Like I don't know why I can't get the word out. I know it, but
Wait,
but archaeologist, logist. I can't get the word out. Why am I stuck on this word? Archaeologist. That's it. Archaeologist.
Reading
Jesus
is fundamental.
Archaeologist has been helping bridge communications. Now Hiram is right. That was a brief train wreck. Between protesters and local leaders, there is a lot of locals who are there, but there is a massive network, Telegram channel, Signal, and all these other networks of people from all over the world. And then he talks a little bit about what Cop City is. And he says some of that became evident on Saturday night. Oh, here we go. When vandals split off from a march down Peachtree after reaching the headquarters of the Atlanta Police Foundation. It wasn't vandals, and it wasn't a split off. I hate when these writers try to separate and make the good protester versus the bad protester. So they want to use the language, and they think they're doing somebody a favor, right? They think when they do this kind of language of separating organizers against each other, that they've done us some kind of favor by saying, oh, these are the bad organizers or the bad activists who actually destroyed private property or broke a window or burnt a police car. We're the good activists. We're just marching peacefully on the street. And so therefore, they're the ones who really represent the movement. So this movement is autonomous. It's represented by a lot of different actors, folks who do things from media work to banner dropping, to civil disobedience, to direct action. And so you do us no favor whatsoever, as opposed to calling out what has caused this violence by trying to suggest that somehow these people are vandals. No, these people are angry at a state which doesn't represent them or their people or listens to the voices of folks in Atlanta who over and over again tried to use the path of talking to city council folks, the path of doing marches and demonstrations like everybody's supposed to do, call-ins, town halls. All of that stuff has been done and will continue to be done. It will continue to be done. But the city decided, even though, again, over 70% of the folks in Atlanta when surveyed have said they are against it, over 90% in that particular neighborhood where it's being built has said they're against it. But the city of Atlanta have refused to listen. And they're the ones who perpetrated violence against organizers and activists. And they're the ones who need to be held accountable for what they've done.
Yeah, I mean, I find it interesting that The Intercept, I mean, I don't vouch for The Intercept, but the fact that they're even repeating the talking points that the police have provided, right? That all the people are from out of state. They don't consider the people that actually live in Atlanta or in the surrounding areas are more than likely people who are literally from out of state, right? Like there's a lot of that gentrification that's happening anyway. So that doesn't mean that people are not coming in from other, cities to and showing up to these protests and actually supporting. So
And they don't call them outsiders when they come in and gentrify the city.
They never will.
When folks from outside come in and pay exorbitant prices, or when they welcome outside corporations who didn't start in Atlanta, they're not outside agitators causing gentrification. They're welcomed in as a new mix and part of the city. And as you said, so here again, this article parrots the line of basically the Black and white middle class leadership. Police have suggested that out-of-state activists are causing most of the trouble. Many of them don't live in Atlanta or the state of Georgia, and they don't represent the voices of Atlanta, said Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens at an evening press conference. We will continue to protect the right to peaceful protests. We will not tolerate violence or property destruction, but they will tolerate the murder of protesters. They will tolerate and act on the illegal arrest and the violent arrest of protesters. Again, protesters at demonstrations that were on sidewalks were thrown to the ground, pepper sprayed, handcuffed for doing nothing but demonstrating in what can be considered a legal, peaceful way. And at the end of those protests, the police decided to rush in and to arrest people and charge them. So the fact that this is happening and the mayor doesn't comment. There's no comment, obviously, not that did we expect, but just to state that the mayor doesn't comment on that. The mayor doesn't say the officers acted violently, that there should be a punishment for the officers or anything should happen. That is not what takes place. So
straight out of the chat room, Ricky Ryan.
This is what I'm talking about here. This is the kind of show I want. This is the show I want. Bap, 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 bap. Hi, Ricky, how you doing?
I'm good. Hi, Kamal.
Peace, Erica. How you doing?
I'm good. I was supposed to be on today anyway. I just want
you have a segment that you're doing, or
it was on the sheet.
Say it again.
I was supposed to be talking about Nicaragua today at 9:20.
Oh, okay. So who was interviewing on Nicaragua? Or you had a whole segment?
Well, yeah, it was like an interview, a sort of report back, I guess.
Okay. Yay. Well, big love. Thank you both for coming on. I feel like this is amazing. This is the start of a new era. We remixers have to take over the remix show. Those folks, Jared and they got old on us. They got old. We can't trust them anymore. It's up to us, the new young generation of organizing. Yeah. Excuse me? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the new young generation, us, to take over and to do the organize on this show. We're going to rename this show the Kamal Shows, guest starring Erica and Coco. I still need top billing though. Is that all right? No, okay. I'm sorry to switch to such a serious topic, but I couldn't help you.
No, because you really like this. I don't know if people.
That is true. I am.
No.
So I don't know if you guys want to add. Erica, do you want to add anything to the story before we break off and talk about something else?
No, I just actually saw your Democracy Now! There was a clip going around on Instagram that I got to see because I haven't been able to catch the interview yet. But no, I thought it was really good. I think that was the first time I really got a chance to look at like the plans, like the actual like simulation of what they wanted to do or what they're trying to do. I think it's wild. Yeah, I think, well, they were talking about campus organizing, and one of the things that I wanted to point to is that there is a lack of information among the students to actually know what's going on with these campuses, because a lot of HBCUs are expanding so rapidly that I don't think that the students, they're seeing change, but they're not really comprehending what the changes are. Because when we had a chance to go into Dr. Ball's classroom and speak with students about the 1030 program at Oregon, a lot of them had no idea. that not just about the 1033, but that there was a whole new police building for Morgan State, state of the art police building. So a lot of the students are just unaware because they're just going and coming. They're going to class and then they're heading off campus. So I really do think that there's this sort of expectation for radicalism because of the past, of the way that student organizing was done. But I'm always reminded, like Daruba, even Rafiki Morris says, these are struggles we've already won at these universities. Like they've already gotten rid of ROTCs. They've already removed those sort of elements from campuses. So to see them trickle back in this way, it's just really an opening call for us to get onto these campuses, because it's really a matter of them not really being aware, but they do feel like they're activated. And I think that there's this sort of reaction to academia now and intellectualism as a whole, where people are just have an aversion to it and they're just like conceding that struggle. But I think it's very important for us to get into, because there's a lot that's happening. I know Batman Atlantic, we had the piece that's in Hood Communist on the neocolonial collusion with the state that's happening not just at Howard, but North Carolina A&T has contracts with the CIA. Lincoln University has a police academy. So this is like a prevalent thing that's happening on HBCU campuses that calls for us to, when we talk about youth organizing, also include students.
Mm-hmm. I think it's
Yeah, no, I
amazing to me
agree
that.
with you.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, I agree. I started, organizing on campuses, and we would protest. And a lot of times when we protested, when we were trying to shut down something, whether it was, I think General Petraeus had a center on City College campus. And, I always remember there was a lot of people who weren't necessarily students would come to the campuses, because we had that open style campus that were around the city, and they would help us organize, right? So they would help us to understand how these issues also related to the community, right? And so I think it's really important for us as organizers to really think how we can get onto campuses and really strategize to really think about bringing these messages, bringing these issues to the students on campus, because honestly, they're not going to know. So if we're not actually physically going to the campuses and spreading the information, I just think it's really important that, that as organizers, we're thinking in those terms.
Right. And Darwin Baldwin wrote that book on sort of university cities. So it's really designed now to insulate students from like the real world, I guess. So they're creating all of these, cities based on the university model. So they don't really ever have to be aware of what's going on.
You guys brought up again. It's been many years ago, but I cut my teeth first on campus organizing. When I got radicalized, it was a CUNY strike, right? Folks were organizing around the fact that CUNY had went from such a low tuition. Obviously CUNY started off with no tuition, and the moment they opened up enrollment to include Black and brown folks in New York, all of a sudden tuition started trickling in as a means of fundraising or getting resources to keep the colleges going. So during a time where there was, at the time, working class students, they started increasing the amount of the tuition without increasing the amount of financial aid. And people for a while shut down several of the campuses. Baruch College had protests where I was at. It was led by Hunter College. Later on, we started an organization called SLAM, Student Liberation Action Movement, that came out of the first uprisings against the tuition increases. And people were active, organizing against Mumia, organizing around police brutality in communities. Resources were put to use where, the campus budget was put to use for bringing campus-being speakers on, money that could go to the organizations. And at the time, the whole nonprofit idea of organizing wasn't as fully created as it is today, particularly for grassroots organizations, right? So folks were looking for, how can we get a little dough to continue on with our projects and do our work? Oh, the school is going to have us come speak at something. They're going to donate or give the speakers $500, which goes to the organization, which helps with the campus organizing. And then later on SLAM in particular, folks took over the student government. which got them more power, more control, until the administration did everything possible to sort of break the back of the student organization, particularly on at Hunter College, but it spread to other campuses. So that kind of power is the kind of thing that we need to figure out, as you guys say, how to duplicate, but knowing that there are other challenges now that students have today that they didn't have even 25, 30 years ago. The amount of resources and loans they have to take out, the ways in which the propaganda model works to get them to focus in on jobs that pay the highest, or work that'll get them the biggest salaries. The sort of moving away from a so-called liberal arts education towards something around finance. All of that is stuff I think that students today battle in terms of even being radicalized or thinking about what's happening on campus, that probably, again, back in the day, wasn't as prevalent. And of course, with no surrounding movement that really sort of captures their imagination, that's here and steadfast and ongoing, I think that also adds to the fact that, that all the work that needs to happen to get folks to organize on campus.
Right. Oh, go ahead, Papa.
No, I was just going to say it brings me back to even when I was, because I started at Medgar Evers College, and we, a bunch of us students, we brought back our student newspaper, right? And so that's what we actually started doing. And with that paper, we were actually, started to think about what are the issues that we're having on campus and bringing that into the paper. And then we started going around to different businesses in the neighborhood, which is in Crown Heights, and finding out what the businesses needed and getting people to put in ads in our paper. But that also brought us a relationship with people in the neighborhood. And so there was just different things and tactics that we used. And with that paper, that's when we started ousting the college president. Then we started ousting the chancellor of CUNY. And it started growing, just because we decided we wanted to bring the issues to the students and let them know what was the problems. And at the time, I had no idea what it was like to be radical. I didn't have any idea what it meant to be an organizer. I was just literally, and I was older at this time. I was like in my late 20s. And I was just, just participating. But that helped to really, get me to understand that, as a student, I can get involved and how I can get involved. So just things like that, I think, are useful.
Yeah. And I think that, I guess with the conversation that was had about Howard and even with Cop City, we see that there's more emphasis on these Black faces in these spaces. So it's just troubling to me. It's troubling because that's not the only inference of something like that at Howard. Howard also has like a USAID program with that they're trying to instill. So there's a lot that's going on at that university, but they're all being spearheaded or at least led by people who look like us. And I don't think there's any real interrogation of that. Because Atlanta is a very fascinating city for me, just politically, to see that how it maneuvers, especially because it's so celebrity driven in that way. I think politically it sort of mirrors the way that celebrities sort of maneuver or wield their power in Hollywood. But I think it's just more overtly done because they really don't see anything wrong with it in Atlanta. And it's becoming one of those things where they're kind of talking about sort of mimicking it in other places, or it could stand as an example for what could be accomplished for cities, and to see all of what's happening, especially with Cop City, the expansion of it with gentrification. It's politically very fascinating.
Yeah, there's a business model. It is a Black business class here, bourgeois class or whatever, that was created obviously during the 70s. I mean, they've always been like sort of the preacher class of leadership and ministers who sort of represented the Black leadership. And as everybody knows, part of the historic role of Atlanta in terms of the partnership between what would be considered the Black elite back in the day and the white economic elite was that, we're going to settle our disputes without you bringing that civil rights movement stuff here, right? Which is why you have leaders of the so-called civil rights movement from Atlanta, but there was never a huge movement in Atlanta because the agreement was that you'll keep it peaceful here, and we won't have as much Jim Crow as other places in Atlanta proper, right? There's still going to be the type of segregation, but there's going to be a little room for you as Black leadership to have some control or some power, particularly as the Black population increased. And that led to the first elected Black political officials, obviously in the 70s, which have only cemented the Black middle class and the illusion of the Black Mecca, which I totally agree with, Ricky's point, is that they believe so much. They've created a Black sort of place here of refuge for Black middle class people in and around Atlanta, that they don't even care or look at what's happening to the mass amount of Black folks, and that they truly represent the class that looks down on poor working class Black folks, to the point of doing everything that they did in terms of destroying public housing, and moving people out of Atlanta, Black working class and poor people out of Atlanta. And in their estimation, following the model that they've seen in other cities, that this was an improvement. So their role was not to do things to support working class Black folks, but to move those Black folks out the city so that they can make room for middle class Black folks and obviously middle class white folks in these corporations to come in. They feel like they're fulfilling a historical legacy. They see nothing wrong with what they're doing. Their politics are totally aligned with the white elite at this particular stage. We having a moment of silence? No, we can do it at moment of silence. No. What we're going to do is we're going to see what happens here at the show. Now we have to use a pun to bring on the ear doctor. So this part. No, what are you doing? I didn't get stay ass backstage first. Now we got to think of a way to bring the ear doctor on through something that was said. So, as part of your new hosting duties, y'all got to think of a good pun to bring on the ear doctor. Like speaking of someone bourgeois in Atlanta, or speaking of someone who doesn't represent. No. I'm
Speaking of mingling with the mayor.
Say it again.
Speaking of mingling with the mayor.
Bam! Now come on. There you go.
Speaking of my organizing days back in college, at Morris Brown, we started the Society of Ma'at, which was an organization because we didn't want to be identified as Black Greeks like all the fraternities and sororities. So we started our own organization, and we looked around campus, and we seen that money was not being spent. So we had to speak out. We got the president kicked out, got another one in there, and they fixed up the campus. So that is what organization in school does. So big up to all the organizers of the colleges and stuff like that. Right. So with that said, look, hey, Kamal, we got a beautiful screen right here. We got Erica, we got Coco.
I love it
in the building.
This is we really need a coup against them old heads. It's us, the millennial generation. You know what I'm saying? We are here now to take over. And you know what we need to do that? We need some more chats. Y'all said to me, maybe I said it to y'all, but I don't give a fuck no more. Y'all said to me that if we got Erica on, we can get $50 more out. At least $50 more.
That's what I heard.
Some super chats, some triple chats, some duper chats. Erica, I'm gonna hit you off with a cut. Not really. I just want to say that.
Yo, so while y'all going to check your bank accounts and stuff like that, we're gonna take a quick break and we're gonna come back right here on the Remix Morning Show. What's good, everybody? Welcome out. This is the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. Please make sure y'all go ahead and hit that like button and share it and let somebody else know that this is the show to be watching. All right, with that said, I'll be out here in these streets. I also always say, y'all got something dope, some music, send it in. So this brother right here, known as King Ruler. King Ruler has sent in, also known as King Ruler the Jeweler, a song right here which goes by the name of Pedigree. So we're gonna play it. Let us know how you feeling it. Straight out of LA, Los Angeles, off his project, The Jewelry Box.
With me, queens ride with me. Adjust your crown, hold me down, rep the tribe with me. Kings ride with me. It's time to raise the
Was in the hood bust, throw your noose in the coffin with you. Get the picture, Jim Crow ain't coming back. We ain't standing for that like you saw Spangled Banner nowadays. Black Hope, public enemy number one. I'm a rebel with a cause. Heavy off in them laws. I leave Mike Tyson, Jim Kelly on with them paws. Civil war brewing, prayers know what he doing. Wagging the dog, preparing for martial law. Into the Constitution, useless, chipping your newborn. King ruler, fitted hats, no turban. Study show raising the law wasn't deserving. Christ ain't no messiah, these Europeans are liars. Selling uncontrolled substance, no convictions of price. We serving indictments, your laundry is aired out. Open court, open source, admitted of civil war.
All right, that's a little piece right there, coming from no other than King Ruler. Real quick, if you want to follow King Ruler, go to his IG right there at King Ruler Music and check that brother out. And that's straight from the West Coast, y'all, giving y'all that thing right here on the Remix Morning Show. Now, what we gonna do is we gonna get back to the Remix Morning crew right here, right now. Let's go. Go. Did I have it on mute?
Nah, I was chewing, B. I took a little break and I got back in that music. I don't know who that was in my ear, and I was like, I need to go get some apples or something.
All right, so
we're not rating it.
Coco, how was you feeling that? Wow.
I didn't hear a lot of it. I'll be honest with you. I just didn't hear a lot of it.
All right.
I can't really say much. I'm sorry.
Erica. Okay.
Some of it, wasn't it muted? I feel like most of it, was it just me?
It was I realized I muted it a little bit. My bad.
But, did you think that would have made a difference?
So I didn't get the full feeling. So I can't really.
Found dead or in jail or hooked to an IV.
You play it like that is not bad.
I missed it.
Okay. Well, we
not a bad sound.
Oh, it wasn't at all. And we didn't miss Franny French with the $10. Thanks to the universe for Coco and Ricky today. Okay.
There's two more. I think one more.
Really?
There's another one. It was in 1999.
Discipline for Life. 1999.
All day.
Ricky all day. All right.
You know what I'm saying? We still ain't beat our goal yet, though. Our goal was 50. Yeah, what y'all up to 29?
Dude,
we need 21 more dollars. You know, Ricky, you know what I'm saying? Just stay there, Ricky. Just stay there and be, don't. Ricky's not going to talk until y'all put 21 more dollars up.
And that's the fundraiser.
That's the fun. Yeah, I gave, right. You know what I'm saying? Whatever.
So that's your break. I catch y'all at the end of the show for a mix. Peace.
That's right. We get a mix. So thank you. We're going to get a mix from the Ear Doctor at about 9:55. And it is fantastic today for all our remixers, our show watchers, the Remix Morning Show, our special co-host, Erica Canes, Coco. I'm not going to say your last name. I know you're still slightly undercover, Coco. I know you don't want that broadcast.
The need to know. Everything is a need to know. That's all.
It's a need to know basis. All. True.
That's
true. Right. And y'all, as y'all can see, sort of the millennial generation. What's the
you really still doing that, right?
I like you. I want to be included. Okay. I know I'm not, but what's the other one that's not? What's the new one that's not millennials? What is it now?
Gen Z.
Gen Z, B. We Gen Z out this bitch. You know no, we're not. No, my bad.
Not even close.
All right, cool. We'll be millennials, including me. But we know that Ricky just got back from an important journey. She was in Nicaragua. And I know you sent me a link. You want me to put that on the screen as you talk about?
Okay. It is our report back. It also the Sandinista government. I just saw published it as well. But it is,
Wow.
yeah. But this is our report back. It was a group from the Jubilee House, Casa Belinda, and the Global Alliance, the Alliance for Global Justice, that all went. We spent about 10 days from the 7th to the 16th in Nicaragua. We got to travel to Masaya. We stayed in Managua. We were up in Esteli in the mountains. So we got to go around Nicaragua. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go to the coast this trip, but I'm hoping to return soon enough. We got to visit union workers and the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Women, Education. We got to see and meet with an all-women's police department. Yeah, it was a really, really life-changing trip, I'd say. There was a lot of things that I was able to make note of, to take back for my organizing work here locally. I've already been in conversations with our local chapter about things that I saw and maybe ways we could try to not maybe mimic it, but it's still a process of discipline so that we can get to a certain point. Because a lot of it is, I talk about the ethics of life in which that they guide their tenets around how they organize a society. So each and every person is empowered, especially workers. So I thought that that was just the most fascinating thing, the way that it really is a workers first nation. It's 90% food sovereign. Over 90% of the population is vaccinated. They never had a lockdown for COVID, which is the even more fascinating thing, that they never had a lockdown, but they still instituted public education around popular education around COVID. The communities are empowered to do those things. So there will be people of the community who are assigned health promoters. So it's their job to make sure that people go to the health clinics, know about what's happening at the clinics. They have discussions around family planning. So it's really, I'd say, more so that I've seen or been able to witness here. It's really the way that they model or structure society guides the way that they empower one another. So it's very much community-based, block by block organizing from the ground up.
Could I read this one piece from the article, which I think needs to be highlighted? It says, over the past 16 years, the Sandinista government has promoted proactive, preventative, and community-based programs that prioritize the needs of women, children, and the marginalized. The World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report of 2022 ranks Nicaragua 7th worldwide for gender parity and 1st in women's educational attainment, literacy, and women in parliament and cabinet positions. These accomplishments reflect the Sandinista government's investments in its people, with 57% of the budget dedicated to health and education. Since 2007, when the Sandinistas were reelected, the well-being of Nicaraguan people has improved significantly. Infant mortality was reduced by 55%, and maternal mortality by 66% in 2021. And as you stated, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the country has never shut down, but has used public health and popular education methods to keep deaths at 37 per 1 million population. In the United States, it is 3,260 of every 1 million residents has died. To date, around 90% of the population 2 years and older has received at least 2 doses of the vaccine. The Nicaraguan economy, as you said, has continued to grow. Health and educational services have not suffered, and the country has avoided incurring excessive debt like many of its neighbors. And so that's an amazing statement to make, particularly considering, again, the sanctions and the harsh treatment leveled out, particularly by the United States against the Sandinista government in Nicaragua. So I just think that's an amazing accomplishment, that if you have governments that put resources or think about resources as ways to improve the lives of everyday people, as opposed to money to be used for corporations, we can get results like that here too, if that was the rationale or reason, or a socialist government was in place
Right.
to think that way, as opposed to the capitalist government we have.
Right. Even when we talk about women in Nicaragua, 51% of the women are elected officials. So that's over half of the elected officials are women. It's designed like that constitutionally for the Sandinista government when they rewrote the constitution to ensure that women have equity more so than equality. So the way that representation is even dealt with or understood there is on an ideological basis and not so much representation for representation's sake or so much of having a seat at the table. So I think that that's a significant difference. Even the way when we met with Campesina feministas, excuse me, which they call themselves the peasant feminists. So they're a group of workers, farmer workers. They own a co-op. About over 400 women work there. It's an expansion of 8 different co-ops. But what they talk about is the decolonial feminism. And they're very clear on the ways that they structure decolonial feminism to improve their situations as peasant feminists who own the means of their own production. So they also talk about like Managua feminists to say like, oh, those city feminists, like they kind of mirror Western feminism in that state. And they also understand the role that those Managua feminists played in like the 2018 coup and hyping that up with their relationships with particular NGOs like the USAID and NED and things like that. So there's a particular clarity from the street vendor to the union worker that, and then coincidentally street vendors get to be unionized, unlike here. But there's a particular ideological clarity that they all have that I think gets mistaken for that sort of strongman argument that folks make around Ortega, even around his wife. But they understand Nicaragua clearly as our government. And even the people who have particular criticisms about Ortega and his wife do not have those same criticisms about the function of the government, which I think is very useful, a very useful distinction, because that's subjective. So there are people who refer to them as Compañera Rosalina and Rosario, excuse me, and Compañera Danielle, is to say that they don't say President Ortega. They call them by their first names, but then there are also people who are highly critical. But that's based on the 2018 coup and a lot of the misinformation that's still wielding its way. Like people are now starting to gather exactly what happened with that coup, and how it took off, and how it really drastically affected the country. Like we could talk about sanctions, but I think also what it caused the government to reassess the function of certain NGOs. So now a lot of the NGOs that have been long-standing are under a new type of legislative process because before anybody could just show up in Nicaragua and open an NGO. And now they're like, we need restrictions. So that kind of sort of, not a regression, but it sort of slows up some of the progress people are able to make because now they have to focus on paperwork they never had to focus on before. And then also because of the claims of how violent Nicaragua is. If you look on the State Department travel right now, they tell you do not travel to Nicaragua. It's increasingly violent. Nobody has any rights there. And that's completely opposite from what we were able to witness and observe. But because of those claims of violence, a lot of people who were supporting these groups, like the Skills to Save Lives, which is a women's group, that does a lot of great work around gender violence and providing resources for women and children who suffer gender violence, they've lost a significant amount of funding because of those claims of Nicaragua being so extremely violent. So, and then also I like to emphasize that when I say that it's community-based, all of these entities and groups work together. They rely heavily on the police force, which is something that we can't comprehend, especially the conversations earlier. And it was really mind-blowing for me to come back. The day I came back, Tort was murdered by the Atlanta police. And I just left a country where it's rare to see an armed police officer. It was extremely rare. Because they don't function like that. They function with preventative, proactive, community based. So and they're even constitutionally guided that way. So it's a different sort of function for police there. And even in conversations when I was explaining the way that police or how we understand police here, especially when it comes to gender-based violence, and to them, it's like, we can't do anything without the police. Like, we rely on them extremely. They are like our comrades in assisting help, because a lot of the police, one, like I noted, they're women-based police departments where it's just all women. So and then they're all trained in trauma response in these particularities. And then also because all these institutions work together, like the Ministry of Women works with the Ministry of Health, works with the Ministry of Education, works with the Ministry of Policing to kind of create a conclusive format of how they want to structure and protect and guide and provide for women and other marginalized sects. That because they're in all this constant conversation, they're able to. What was I gonna say? I'm trying to find the wording. Yeah, it's not a single issues based sort of organizing. So they're in constant conversation, and so it's equity based. So children from primary school up on to vocational school, there's a program that talks about gender equity, that explains gender roles, that explains things that they feel would only progress the direction of Nicaragua. So it's not perfect, of course, and people have their criticisms, but the people are definitely empowered to make Nicaragua what they want it to be. So it's very Nicaraguan solutions for Nicaraguan problems.
So, I mean, that's great. My question is, how do they get the people to be more politically involved in their own, the system? Because I feel like, here in the United States, a lot of people, they go to vote. A lot of people tell you to vote, but there's no actual political involvement. There's no like understanding the political process and understanding, like who is where, what ministry does what, a lot of that does not happen here. And I think, educating people on the actual political process is something that I feel like we struggle here. So what is that like over there if you had any experience learning about that?
Historically, there's a difference, right? Nicaragua had a revolution and we did not. So I think that that's extremely important, and that also plays out in the electoral loss in the 1990s that led to like the 16 years that they call like the dark years of neoliberalism, because they had that sort of ideological split, but they all understood, they all wanted Somoza out. So there was a coming together of people to get Somoza out and then reestablish a country that would work for them. So I think that process allowed for people to feel, I guess, empowered to organize for solutions that work for them. But I think when it comes to the U.S., there's no sort of feeling of empowerment for workers. I think people are definitely reliant on seeing the government or having some sort of leadership as opposed to understanding themselves as leaders. Even when we talk about organizing, right? I think the whole point of organizing is to organize the people to be empowered to do for themselves or do of themselves, as opposed to the ways that we understand organizing that has a particular leadership and then everybody sort of follows under that reign. I think that they have a good model for that sort of cross collaboration of it. But it's one of those things. I think it's very important for us to go on these kind of delegations if we have the chance, especially as Africans. We are truly outnumbered, especially as young Africans as well. We're truly outnumbered. I had the opportunity to be in Nicaragua for 10 days with Baba Bokassa Dada and his wife, which I think was a remarkable experience. I think it changed maybe the experience I would have gotten had they not been there. But it definitely was a life-altering sort of change. But I think what we witnessed or we're able to witness is the results of that revolution.
I like the fact too that you brought up the stuff about the NGOs, because people don't realize how insidious that some of the NGOs can be. And so even if they get some services and resources to people, they depoliticize them a lot of times, if not de-radicalize and or come in with an alternative political ideology that is neoliberal. And a lot of times people don't understand that these nonprofits slash NGOs, they are sent to these other countries, or they're funded by US government, or they're funded by corporations, because their role is to depoliticize, to offer some services, but not to challenge the structure of government, and not to challenge sort of a capitalist way of doing things, but just to feed into a service economy, which again, even bleeds away from developing. I think, I'm forgetting the name of the writer, but who wrote the book about sort of NGOs in Africa and sort of a service-based way of doing things, which takes away from building an alternative economic base where resources are being redistributed to the population, as opposed to feeding people food that now they've become dependent on, as opposed to either growing themselves and working it through sort of an economic mechanism. So the fact that when countries do put these restrictions on NGOs, the West usually plays it out as if, oh my God, somehow freedom has been taken away. These people are being watched. They can't do their work anymore. And a lot of the times the case is because these NGOs are spreading not only propaganda, but moving folks away from a radicalized view of how they should be thinking about solving their problems.
Mm-hmm. And then I think SOS Nicaragua was one of the first of its. I mean, it preceded the Venezuelan actions and what was later to come in Cuba. It preceded Bolivia. So it was one of the first of its kind in that way for that region. So it's a really good case study of hashtag activism and the ways that it plays into U.S. imperialism, especially since years later, they're still untangling the truth about what happened. Even when you look at footage about the 2018 attempted coup, they're showing you all of these people out on the street, putting these blockades up. And as they're showing you these things, they're saying police repression. And you can literally see not one police officer in the street, because Ortega, he didn't allow it. He would not allow any of the police officers to leave their stations because he did not want to escalate the situation. I mean, the people were calling in for blue helmets to come and invade, come and save the Nicaraguan people from the evil socialist regime. It's the same sort of tactics and language. But one thing I do want to note is that Nicaragua wants peace. And that's one of the things that they emphasize. They're moving towards that, so much so that they are fully invested in smashing contradictions, which is why they place so much emphasis on gender equity and understanding gender. And then also they have this program where monthly that they give the mothers of the martyrs of the Sandinista Revolution bread baskets and things like that. They are also giving them now to the mothers of the Contras, because they are working towards reconciliation of the country, because they understand also everybody who was a part of that really didn't all know what they were a part of or doing, and were swept up in a lot of misinformation too. So they really are pushing towards efforts towards peace. So the emphasis on violence really is coming from opposition parties, obviously, but it's really mostly coming from the West that is playing up on that attempted coup. But it's really a beautiful country, and I really hope that people who do get a chance to go. More Africans.
Yay. So speaking of folks who we want to leave the country.
Wow.
Damn. Well, I'm just saying,
And lead the Black Power Media parade.
No, I was just joking, son. I don't want you to leave the country. You know what I'm saying? I just want you to leave them drugs alone. That's all.
Well, I can't. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in today. We have our host with the most up in here in the building today. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Coco, and thank you, Kamal, for coming through and doing what you do. With that said, we're gonna leave y'all with a mix, and we're gonna come back right here 8 a.m. in the morning with some more of the Remix Morning Show. With that said, let's get into it. All right. Remix Morning.
I see it tonight, now something for teacher. Chat to me now.
Well, I better practice what you preach. I don't know what, baby. You think it a go so when I hold you tonight, I go and do all of the things where you like. make you see. You think it a go so when I hold you tonight, I go and do all of the things where you like. So you can see they don't believe me. Give me the chance, make I do it. Why not?
Can't touch my property. This black woman with me, I got take a liberty. It name hands up. Can't touch my property. Burn them from Kingston, go straight back to my got it name hands up. Can't touch my property. Them not black woman, them say them not so. It name hands up. Can't touch my property. Now give them no chance, them not have no heart property. Things she up.
Yeah, what's up? It ain't pop sauce. Where the bottom say I'm talking on the ass.
Once again, welcome out to the Remix Morning Show.
What's this?
Let's go.
Girls, you look so sharp. Anytime you pass in the boom boom shop. It's true.
What's the girl screams about? Tell her again.
Girl, you touch my heart. Anytime you pass in your boom boom shop.
I'm got him wide out.
Run things, shoot boy.
Pose off, yeah, your pump pump shots, make the man then know so you stop pose off. Yeah, your pump pump shots, make the man then know so you stop. What's the girl in them pump pump shots? No young gentleman just can't pass. Body so big, it a broke your eyeglass. Them man girl can't fight, no go off.
Hit the man, man who that a come. Hit the man, who no think me did done. Hit the man who that a come. Hit the man. Who no think me did done me cup it up. Say DJ go and go sit up, me cup it and up. Tell them fi pack up and run me cup it and up. DJ go and go sit up, me cup it and up. Tell them fi pack up and run now. Put up and chat come off on the right. They have two stick hard and the mic. Admiral come off on the left before me use the bomber and box it with the depth. He's the grinds man, him a send threat. Me electric chain, me go shock him to death. Wait the man, who that a come? Wait the man. Who no think me did done? Wait the man. Who that a come? Wait the man. Who no think me did done?
Sing along as we take you out and bring you back right here in the morning. Let's go.